need to be doing as a branch to really get on the bus with where we need to be in reference to voting, particularly as it relates to us here in Arkansas, and even more specifically as it relates to us here in Pulaski County. All right, you guys know me, I'm Kwami Abdul-Bey, and I'm taking this approach just basically to give you guys some actionable knowledge, some actionable information that you can use. And I've also sent this presentation to the secretary so that we can make sure that everyone in the membership gets a copy of this presentation afterwards. But before we get started, one thing that we need to do, keeping a diversity, equity, and inclusion focus as far as justice is concerned, is we have to acknowledge the unceded land upon which we now exist. Here in the Jacksonville area of Pulaski County, there are 4 different nations that have existed here long before we came here and long before the United States Constitution was even thought of. The Osage, the Caddo, the Watchau, and the Quapaw were nations that existed here before us. So whenever we do these things, whenever we speak in public, we always want to acknowledge those that came before us, and also understand that their concept of the future being tied to the present rests on what's called the philosophy of 7 generations. So everything that you do today, you must keep in mind how it will affect the next 7 generations. And I hope that we will move forward from this day, making sure that we as a branch and we as members in this branch ensure that everything that we do as members of the Jacksonville NAACP ensure that the next 7 generations are taken into full consideration, and how what we do impacts those next 7 generations. Before we get started, I'd like to take a pretest. You guys know I'm at the Clinton School of Public Service, and one thing that we're taught is always give a pretest and a protest. So this pretest consists of 7 questions. If you got a free piece of paper, you can write down your answers. You don't have to share your answers right now, but we will have a protest afterwards to see what you learned. All right, here's our pretest. Question number 1, does the US Constitution guarantee a federal right to vote for all US citizens? Number 2, with what does the first mention of election access in the US Constitution deal? Is this mention proscriptive or descriptive? 3, what article of the Arkansas Constitution of 1874 defines the right to vote for all Arkansas residents? How many times has it been amended? Number 4, what is the difference between securing voting rights and fighting for electoral justice? Number 5, for what does the acronym VREP stand? Number 6, how do you gain access to Reverend Judge Wendell Griffin's recent voter suppression opinion? What is the current status of his decision? And finally, number 7 for your pretest, how many electoral justice litigation cases is the Arkansas Conference of the NAACP currently involved in, either as an organization or as individual members? So you guys feel comfortable on what we're going to be learning today? Somebody said, how you feeling?
Well, I was going to say it's a lot of information. I think I got a C maybe.
Okay, it's a lot of information, yes. Well, this is our goal for 2022 for the NAACP. And I am glad that interim president brought this to my attention when I first joined and sent this to me. And I have it plastered on my wall, and I have a poster of it on my wall to remind me of what the goal is. Our goal is to be the baddest, boldest, most loved, most hated, most feared and revered, most cussed and discussed organization in America. But we have a long way to go, particularly here in Arkansas. And what we need to do is we need to start working on our baby steps, getting towards this goal, and coming together shoulder to shoulder, moving forward ever, backward never towards this goal. One way to get to that goal is what I call VREP: voter registration, retention, education, and participation. And this is a concept that I came up with about 25 years ago when I created the Arkansas Young People's Congress, and getting young college students really interested in voter registration. But they challenged me and told me that voter registration is just the beginning, it's not enough. And that's how we came up with voter registration / retention, education, and participation. And one thing that we have done as the NAACP and other civil rights organizations is we've concentrated on that first R, the registration, and we've forgotten about the rest of that, the retention, the education, and the participation. And we need to get to that so that we can be what our goal is, what our goal states we're going to be. But the goal right now, the most important goal, is to vote. We are the leaders that we've been waiting for. So how do we ensure that we vote, and how do we ensure that every single member of the Jacksonville NAACP branch votes, and every member of every member's family votes, every member's neighborhood votes, every member's community votes, and it keeps going on and on like a pebble thrown in a pond. We want to increase the voter participation here in Arkansas, because we have a very serious problem with voter participation here in Arkansas. And I learned that in all the multiple talks that I've had with Senator Joyce Elliott, and she says it time and time again, Arkansas doesn't have a voter registration problem. Arkansas has a voter participation problem. Let's look at the stats on voter registration. If you look at this, this tells you the percentage of the people that are registered to vote here in Arkansas. In CVAP, that actually just means you're eligible to vote. You're a citizen of voting age. So here in Arkansas, of the people that are eligible to vote, there are 2.2 million people eligible to vote, and 83% of them are registered. 83% are registered to vote. We have here in Arkansas, we're in the mid-level. I think we're number 22, 23 as far as the highest percentage of people that are registered to vote, that are eligible. So we don't have a registration problem. Now let's look at active registrations. Here in let me go back to this other one and show you, because I forgot to point out Pulaski County. If you look at Pulaski County, Arkansas has 83% of the eligible registered. Here in Pulaski County, we're nearly 89%, 6 percentage points higher than the state average. So Pulaski County has the highest percentage of eligible voters that are registered to vote. But why aren't we getting what we need? Why are we suffering from legislatures that have literally run amok of the law? Well, let's look at the active registrations. You can be registered, but you're not necessarily active. An active registration means that you have voted in an election within the last year. In Arkansas, only 63.8% of those people that are registered to vote have voted within the last year. Only 63.8. Here in Pulaski County, it's 64.5%. We don't have a voter registration problem. We have a voter participation problem. Now let's look at the turnout in 2020. The turnout in 2020. Now, remember, of the 64.5% that were registered that actually have active registrations, only 59.1% of them actually voted. You see how these numbers are dwindling down and down and down? Right. So we started at 2.2 million, and out of 2.2 million, we only have 1.2 million that actually voted in the state. Here in Pulaski County, 170,000. So again, we don't have a voter registration problem, we have a voter participation problem. So we have to talk about the urgency of a universal civic duty to vote. Right now, we're in early voting's, the early voting period, and it goes through next Monday. And it is my personal opinion that each and every card-carrying member of the NAACP should be participating in early voting. If you have not already early voted. One of the interesting things about Arkansas is Arkansas, 87% of votes cast in the last election were during the early voting period. So we have a very large percentage of people who early vote, and we as members of the NAACP, we need to early vote and get it out of the way so that we can concentrate our efforts on getting others to vote. Voting is not hard. Yes, they're making it hard, and they have things that help them to make it hard. But what we have to do is we have to figure out whatever hurdle that is put in front of us, and let's do the training to get over that hurdle. Let's go over it. Let's go under it. Let's go around it. Let's not stop at the hurdle. And that's what we have been doing. Is we've been victims of the paralysis of analysis, and we need to be more action oriented in what it is we're trying to do. So the problem is, particularly here in Arkansas, we're not really the baddest, or the boldest, or the most loved, most hated, most feared and revered. We are definitely cussed, but we're not discussed. And that's our present state right now, but we don't have to stay there. We are the freedom fighters for a new generation, a new century. And we can live up to everything on this list. We just have to put in the work. It doesn't have to be that there's only 12 members of our branch that are putting in the work, and we rarely see or hear the rest from the rest of our branch. We all need to work on this and be together in putting forward that work. All right. This right here is the provision of the Arkansas Constitution that gives you the right to vote. I'm going to say that again so that you understand. This is the provision in the Arkansas Constitution, Article 3, Franchise and Elections, that deals with the right to vote. The U.S. Constitution does not give a U.S. citizen the right to vote. What it does is it sets up guardrails for the states, and it tells the states, if you give your citizens the right to vote, you must do it within these parameters. That's what the U.S. Constitution does. And then they leave it up to the states to decide whether or not they want to give their residents the right to vote. It just so happens that in Arkansas, we do have the right to vote. Article 3, Section 1 talks about the guardrails that we use here in Arkansas. There's 4 different guardrails. Have to be a U.S. citizen, have to be a resident of the state of Arkansas, have to be at least 18. Number 4 is what's hurting us, is our problem. You have to be lawfully registered to vote in the election. This is the entry that the legislature has been using to further curtail those rights. And we'll talk about that in a second. But if you look at Section 2 of Article 3, it tells you the right to suffrage. And it's really particular where it says no power, civil or military, shall ever interfere to prevent the free exercise of the right of suffrage, nor shall any law be enacted whereby such right shall be impaired or forfeited. This is important because there are currently 2 different lawsuits that are dealing with what happened in the last legislative session that invoked Article 3, Section 2. They didn't invoke the U.S. Constitution. They invoked Article 3, Section 2 of the Arkansas Constitution. And that's why those lawsuits are still alive. We need to concentrate on what I call electoral justice. Only a subset, a part of electoral justice. Electoral justice deals with the entire gamut of voting. Electoral justice includes redistricting, because redistricting, I'm going to let you know this, if you read the U.S. Constitution, it is actually the first mention of election access in the Constitution is redistricting. The U.S. Constitution does not mention the right to vote. It's only in the amendments, but the Constitution itself never mentions the right to vote. It only mentions redistricting. But what we have to do is walk a pretty tight line, because there's a minefield that this is not for the faint of heart, what we're trying to do. And we all signed up for this. And we all need to understand that we are doing this together. We're not in this alone. We are in this together. And I am so proud to be amongst this cadre of excellent people that I get a chance to see and speak with at minimum twice a month. All right, so let me tell you about some of the legislation that's going on. We do have some voter suppression litigation that was filed by the League of Women Voters of Arkansas against the Secretary of State. That case is currently on appeal in the Arkansas Supreme Court. And I forgot to put a notation up there. I apologize for that. But what happened with this particular case is this case was brought and set over this case was Reverend Judge Wendell Griffin. And Reverend Judge Wendell Griffin, after hearing each and everything that needed to be said, he wrote one of the most eloquent, well-researched legal opinions against voter suppression that has been written in a long time. I think it was about 50-something pages. And for your homework, I asked each and every one of you to go to Arkansas Court Connect. And when you go to Arkansas Court Connect, it's going to ask you for the name of one of the contestants in the lawsuit. Type in John Thurston. And when you type in John Thurston and press enter, the second case will be this case. And go to that and download that 50-some-odd page legal opinion that Judge Griffin wrote, and read it and study it and understand why our fight for electoral justice is so important. These are the 3 laws that Judge Griffin invalidated. He invalidated these 3 laws and explained thoroughly why each of these 3 laws that were passed in 2021 were illegal and unconstitutional. It just so happens that his decision, now a lot of people think his decision was thrown out by the Supreme Court. That is not the case. His decision was put on hold because the state of Arkansas appealed his decision, and they asked for a stay of his decision until they had an opportunity to adjudicate it. Now, here's the problem. Let me show you when that was appealed. Notice it was appealed on March 30th. This is May 15th, right? The Supreme Court has yet to hear it. And the Supreme Court has yet to hear it because of a whole bunch of behind the scenes rigmarole and shenanigans that are going on. So right now, the League of Women Voters has filed an emergency motion for accelerated proceedings and a petition for writ of certiorari, I hope I pronounced that correctly, to complete the record. Now, the Supreme Court affirmed this motion in part and denied it in part. So right now, we're really just waiting to see what's going to happen next. And this case probably will not be heard until in the summertime. But these 4 laws, they deal with having an ID to cast a ballot in person. And that ID must conform to certain standards. You cannot have an affidavit like you could have in the past. Having an ID to turn in an absentee ballot. Bringing forward the deadline to turn in absentee ballots. And if you look at the very bottom, Act 728 of 2021. I am very proud of this law because this law was specifically targeted the work that we did. The Jacksonville NAACP joined with all of the NAACP and several different other organizations around the state. Last year, we got a $50,000 grant to do souls to the polls and what's that, Clarice? It was party at the polls, right? Is that what it's called?
Joy to the polls.
Say that again. Joy to the polls. Yeah. So we had music at every single polling location in Pulaski County and in several different counties. We had free food vendors giving out free food, giving people lunch and dinner and everything. We did that during the last election session, and we were on the news almost every single day. And as a result of what we did, Act 728 of 2021 was passed. So give yourself a pat on the back. They came after you with this law. Another thing that I want to tell you that a lot of people don't understand is that the Arkansas Constitution permits incarcerated people in Arkansas to vote if they are either on pretrial detention or they are just with a misdemeanor. Now, if they are on felony conviction, if they've been convicted of a felony, they cannot vote. But if they're on pretrial detention for a felony, they can vote until they're convicted. And all they have to do is, I left the word out here, they need to vote via absentee ballot. And so we look at the number of people that are currently in the custody of the state of Arkansas. We have 18,000 Arkansans that are locked up right now. And of those 18,000, 11,000 fit into this description. So we have 11,000 potential voters that are in the care of the state of Arkansas that we as the NAACP, we need to go in there and make sure that they're registered and make sure that they have absentee ballots. Here in Pulaski County, there are 1,200 Arkansans as of May 1st that are locked up over on, what is that, Wright Avenue?
Mm-hmm.
Roosevelt
Avenue, excuse me. And of those people that are locked up, 850 are on pretrial detention or on misdemeanor detention. So 850 potential votes are sitting in the Pulaski County Jail. And we as the NAACP needs to go in there and we need to get those votes and make sure that they're registered and make sure that they have absentee ballots. This is how we become the baddest and the most feared. We have to do what is required to earn that title. The primary elections, they're here. Early voting. I'm not going to ask you if you've early voted yet. I just want you to early vote this week. Monday, May 23rd is the last day of early voting, and then the regular voting day is May 24th. So make sure you get out there and vote. Here are the early voting sites. In Jacksonville, Bethel Baptist Church at 112 North Jefferson Davis Street. That's where the early voting is in Jacksonville. There, you can go to any of these locations. You don't have to just go there. You can go to any early voting location. It doesn't matter. One thing that I ask all of you to do is go to voterview.org, put in your name, first name, last name, your birth date, and it will tell you your new voter information. Terry Hollingsworth and I, we have been on the circuit doing early voting events like we're doing now, like I'm doing now. And one thing that she brought up in the last event we did last week together, she brought it up, we talked about it, and we both agreed, is that we would like for everybody to go and re-register to vote. Why is that important? Particularly if you are over the age of 50, or if you have not voted in the last 3 years, or if you have had some type of physical or mental event in the last 3 years, chances are that your signature is not the same as it was when you originally registered to vote. So Terry Hollingsworth and I are encouraging everyone to re-register with your new signature. That's one way we can get around all of this voter suppression, is if everybody re-registers with their new signature, then we don't have to worry about that new law that makes Terry Hollingsworth and her staff, they are now signature experts, because they have to determine whether or not the signature you have matches the signature that you registered with. All right, the E on VREP is education. These websites, and you don't have to write them down because I sent a PDF of this to the secretary to send to everybody. And I want to make sure that everyone, your homework, in addition to finding Judge Griffin's opinion and reading it, I want you to visit each and every one of these websites, preferably before you vote, because each and every one of these websites has information on the candidates that are running for public office. And the reason you want to check each and every one of them, because each and every one of them ask different questions from a different angle for a different purpose. And if you want to get as much information as you can for the candidates that you're voting for, you want to check out each and every one of these sites. And the site on the bottom, that's the site that deals with the ballot initiatives that are going on, that are going to be on the ballot. And I'm going to have a later session dealing with all those 3 initiatives that the legislature put on the ballot to change the Constitution. I'm going to tell you, vote no against all 3 of them, particularly whenever the legislature puts up a constitutional amendment, always vote against it. That should be your go-to. Unless there's compelling reason to vote for it, always vote against it. Another thing that you want to do is tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Well, that's 7:30 p.m. Is that Eastern 7:30 p.m. or is that 2:30 p.m.? President Ford, do you know?
Secretary Ford.
It's normally Eastern, but I can check.
That's Eastern, so it should be 6:30 p.m. our time. All right, so I encourage everyone that's a member of the Jacksonville branch to go to this voter activation network training, this VAN training. The national office is getting ready to funnel a significant amount of money into Arkansas to help us with those numbers that I started out with. And we're going to need as many members as possible trained on the VAN system so that we can implement what they are sending us money to do. So that's part of the E and the V rep again. Remember, it's voter registration, retention, education, and participation. All right, as I round the corner and go to the finish line so that I can get off of here and give you guys an opportunity to speak with me, I want to give you an update, and this will serve as my report for today as well. But the redistricting litigation that's going on. All right, redistricting litigation. There are 3 different lawsuits that are going on. The one that the Arkansas State Conference of the NAACP is involved in as an organization is this one right here. And that now is in the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. It was appealed on February 23rd, and they are now accepting motions. I want to let you know that I am very proud that there have been 17 different nonprofit organizations, civil rights minded organizations, and attorneys, including former U.S. Attorney Generals, that have all filed amicus briefs on behalf of the Arkansas NAACP. An amicus brief is a friend of the court. And what an amicus brief does is it tells the court, hey, I see you have this case in front of you, and I want to talk about the merits of this party's case. So there have been 17 different amicus briefs filed in support of our position, and none filed in support of the state of Arkansas's position. So that lets me know that, at least on paper, we looking good as far as this case is concerned. The next redistricting litigation case that I want to bring you up to speed on is Simpson versus Hutchinson. This is the Richard Mays case that was brought by Richard Mays. And you see Senator Chesterfield, Dr. Whitfield, Representative Ennett, Charles E. Bowden, Wanda King, Jackie Simpson are all members of the NAACP, and they are all plaintiffs in this case. So we have members of the NAACP that are working on the organization's behalf as well, because it is our belief that we hit them hard from 3 different directions and we keep hitting. This case right here was filed in March, on March the 7th in federal court. It deals with the Congress, and nothing much has happened in this case, except for the fact, if you look on here, Senator Tom Cotton has filed an amicus brief in support of the state of Arkansas. And in his amicus brief, he says Arkansans have no right to vote. That should be recognized by the court. It's probably one of the dumbest amicus briefs that I've seen in a bit, but if you want to check it out, I will send it to you. And if you look on the bottom, Mitchell I don't know how to pronounce it. Lamaru. Mitchell Lamaru is the attorney that filed Senator Tom Cotton's amicus brief. He is the former chief of staff for Governor Hutchinson. So things that make you go, All right, here's the final case, the redistricting litigation. This is dealing with the legislative districts. You see the plaintiffs are Deborah Springer, Judy Green, Representative Love, Kwami Abdul-Bey, Clarice Abdul-Bey, and Paula Withers. Guess what? They're all members of the NAACP. So again, in yet another case, we have members of the NAACP that are fighting the fight for the people of Arkansas. This particular case was filed in state court under Article 3, Section 2. It was removed from state court to federal court by the state of Arkansas. But if you see our side just this past week, motion to move it back to state circuit court. So we're waiting on the federal judge to hear that motion. So that's what's going on. And if you guys want to get into specifics about either of these cases, definitely feel free to give me a call, email me, text me. I'll be more than happy to spend 60 minutes talking to you and answering your questions about these cases and going over specifics. this is how we get to our goal. One thing that I love about the NAACP, being someone who will start law school this coming fall. I'm supposed to, if I can pass that LSAT. If not, it'll be next fall, but I will be starting soon enough. But one thing that I really like about the history of the NAACP is its ability to use the judicial branch to resolve issues that the executive and legislative branch could not and would not solve. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to law school, is so that I can become an attorney and I can follow in the footsteps of a Harold Flowers here in Arkansas and really work for the NAACP on a much higher and more profound level, and just really start being the baddest, most loved, most hated, most feared and revered, most cussed and discussed NAACP attorney in the country. Time for your post-test. Y'all ready for it? All right, now you gotta share your answers. All right. Does the U.S. Constitution guarantee a federal right to vote for all U.S. citizens?
No.
No, it does not. With what does the first mention of election access in the U.S. Constitution deal?
It's on the tip of my tongue. It deals with what was that you said?
Only in the U.S. Constitution, there's only one.
It deals with
Redistricting.
Redistricting, right?
Redistricting. All right. Now, I did not mention this, and I should have, but the question is this proscriptive or descriptive? Now, let me tell you the difference between voting in the original Constitution and voting in the amendments or the Bill of Rights. Voting in the original Constitution was proscriptive, which means it told the states, this is what you will do. So when the Constitution spoke on redistricting, it was giving specific rules to follow for the states. In the Bill of Rights, in the amendments, that language on voting is descriptive. It does not give the states any rules to follow. It only gives guardrails saying this is what you cannot do, and that's it. So redistricting is a proscriptive voting right. All other voting rights in the U.S. Constitution are descriptive. Number 3, what article in the Arkansas Constitution of 1874 defines the right to vote for all Arkansas residents?
Article 3.
Article 3. This is something I should have mentioned too. How many times has it been amended? It's actually been amended, I believe, 6 or 7 times. And those amendments were to our detriment. They were two of the amendments were beneficial. The other amendments were to our detriment because one of the amendments was the creation of the photo ID regime that we currently have. Number 4, what is the difference between securing voting rights and fighting for electoral justice?
Anybody? Anybody?
I think no, we should fight for both of them.
Well, electoral justice includes voting rights. So when you're fighting for voting rights, you're fighting for one man, one ballot. When you're fighting for electoral justice, you're fighting for one man, one ballot, You're fighting for access. You're fighting for being able to have the correct number of people on the election commission. You're fighting for redistricting. You're fighting for everything that deals with your ability to have the representatives that you need that think like you. You don't have to have representatives that look like you. It's good to have representatives that look like you. You know, it makes you feel good, but you want representatives that think like you and that are responsive to you.
This is why I think
And that's
they should get
electoral
rid of
justice.
the electoral college, because
Well,
to me
I can tell you there are about 70% of the US Constitution was written to preserve slavery in the United States, and the Electoral College was one of those things that preserved slavery. So yes, I agree with you 100% on that. Number 5, what does the acronym VREP stand for?
Voter registration, retention, education, and participation.
Great, great, great.
We got
Number
a teacher. Wait, we got a teacher's pet up in here.
All right, number 6. How do you gain access to Reverend Judge Wendell Griffin's recent voter suppression opinion?
go to the website.
Yeah, what website is that?
I don't remember, but I know that it'll be in the minutes, and I can look it up.
Arkansas Court Connect. Arkansas Court Connect. You just Google Arkansas Court Connect and it should come up. What is the current status of his decision, his 50 some odd page decision?
It's on hold.
It's on hold. A lot of people think that it was shut down. It hasn't been shut down. It's just been put on hold while the state Supreme Court hears arguments on the behalf of the state of Arkansas. And finally, number 7, right now, it looks like we got 100% on this post-test. How many electoral justice litigation cases is the Arkansas Conference of the NAACP currently involved in, either as an organization or as individual members?
3. 3.
3. All right. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I'd like to have a copy of the thing about being cussed and discussed and hated and the baddest and stuff like that. I love it.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. As I stated, this a PDF of this presentation was sent to Madam Secretary with the request to send it to the entire membership along with the video of this presentation. So you will receive that.
Great.
And I have your email address. I'm going to purchase some poster sizes of those. So when I get them, I'll bring one to your house.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kwame, I just wanted to, this is more so for discussion and for everyone to consider. Act 249, that's on the voter ID. Explain how can regular members or just a normal person explain the justification of not having to have ID? Because that's the question that's always put out there. Don't you have to have ID for everything? And so why is it such a big deal?
Well, here's the thing. Here in the United States, there was a federal law that was passed back in the 90s that created the mechanism for the Department of Motor Vehicle basically to be in charge of voter registration. And in most states, particularly in Arkansas, here in Arkansas, I think 60% of all 60% of the people who registered to vote registered when they got their driver's license. So the thing is once you register, your identity has already been confirmed. And the thing is if you have some ID that just proves your identity, then you should be able to vote. And how it used to be is if you did not have the proper ID, you could fill out an affidavit and have the affidavit to suffice as your ID. An affidavit is a legal document of truth. Their full name is called an affidavit of truth. And what you're doing is you're saying under penalty of perjury that I am this person. And if you are not that person, you can be arrested for perjury and for voter fraud. So that's one of the issues that we have in what we're dealing with here in the state of Arkansas with voter suppression. One thing that I've learned in the last couple of years, that voter registration is not required by the US Constitution. And there are 16 states that do not even require you to register to vote. You just have to prove that you're a resident of that state and that you are, you will turn 18 at least 24 hours before election day, and you can vote.
Very well.
I have a question.
Please, go ahead.
Hey, my question is, okay, first, my son, he's in the military, and on that 2020 election, presidential election, he was in Georgia at his training. And I can tell you that there were a lot of military that were on that base that did not get to vote. And I called down to this, wherever I had to call down here to try to get him an absentee ballot sent to where he was. And the young lady there just acted like she didn't know what she was doing. And I didn't get his absentee ballot. I thought they were going to send it to him where he was, but in actuality, they sent it to over here to my house. And I didn't get that until like a month or two after the election was over. He didn't even get a chance to vote. So
okay, I have a solution for that.
Okay.
The federal government has an absentee ballot for uniformed services. So what he just needs to do, and you can give me a call or email. Let me give you my contact information. You can call me or email me. Hold on, wait a second. There's my contact information. Call me or email me, and I will get you a copy of the Federal Uniformed Services absentee ballot that any member of the military or uniformed services can use anywhere in the world, and the state is required to accept it.
Okay.
And what I would do is I would give that to you. You give it to him and tell him to give it to everybody on base.
Okay. Okay. Well, he's a
And
little
that way,
yeah.
and that way you bypass the shenanigans that are going on in the different states.
Okay. Now, right now, I mean, is it a way that they can, well, I know it's something for time, but is it a way they can do that online? Because by the time all of that gets to him,
yeah.
You know, I don't know where he is right now. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm going, when I give it to you, I'm going to email it to you.
Okay.
Or actually, I'm not going to email it to you. I'm going to give you the website. It's a federal website where he can download it.
Okay.
And then he can just download it, fill it out.
He can vote online?
Say that again?
Can he vote online?
No, he won't be able to vote online. He would have to download it, fill it out, and then mail it in.
Okay. Because I don't believe he's near a printer. He's in Lithuania somewhere. I don't know where he is, but.
Well, what you can do is just have him fill it out and then scan it and send it, email it back to you, and then you mail it for him.
Okay. Okay.
This is Marlo here.
Oh, Okay, Monroe.
Okay,
Hold
also,
on.
unless there's some
Let me stop
change,
sharing so I
each
can
unit,
see people. Okay, go
okay,
ahead.
each unit should have a voting officer. And the particular military member can request a absentee ballot through that voting officer.
Oh, they have a voting officer?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Ma'am, if he will go to his orderly room, they should be able to either tell him who that officer is or point him in the right direction.
Okay, I'll have him check.
So, alrighty.
Are there no more questions, comments,
We'll be able
concerns,
to do this,
complaints?
Kwame.
You're welcome.
Hey, Kwame,
I
I
have a
wanted, go ahead.
I don't know if this is too off track. I was wondering about the Electoral College.
Okay.
Those are individual people, correct?
Yeah, yes.
And is it true that they do not have to vote the way that their constituents want them to vote?
True.
It depends on whatever the law is in their particular state. I really honestly don't know what the law is here. I think Mayor Johnson might be more versed in that than I am since he was a legislator. But I don't know how it works here, but it depends on whatever the state law is.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'll find out what it is here in Arkansas and I'll let you know.
If there's no more questions, Kwame, that was invaluable